All right, so just when we thought the Persian Gulf situation could not get any hotter, things just went nuclear, and I mean that almost literally. The USS Gerald R just left the Caribbean and is racing toward the Middle East right now to join the USS Abraham Lincoln. We are talking a full dual-carrier strike force parking itself in Iran's backyard, while President Trump is warning of very traumatic consequences if these Oman-mediated talks collapse. And here is what they are not telling you. Israeli intelligence just dropped a bombshell showing Iran has rebuilt up to 2,000 ballistic missiles in just the last few weeks. 2,000 missiles. Stick around to the very end because I am breaking down why two carriers are absolute genius, the specific threats that make this necessary, and the 4D chess game happening right now that could change everything in the next 72 hours. Let us cut through the noise and get a hard lock on what is actually confirmed right now, because in a crisis like this, rumors fly faster than fighter jets. Here is what is real and what is just hype. The Pentagon, as of February 13th, has officially ordered the USS Gerald R to leave its Caribbean patrol and head directly for the Middle East. That is not speculation. Multiple defense officials confirmed the order, and crew notifications went out Thursday. The Ford is expected to cross the Atlantic, transit the Mediterranean, and link up with USS Abraham Lincoln in the Arabian Sea. That means, for the first time since the post-Vietnam era, the United States is about to run a dual-carrier strike force off Iran's coast. President Trump, on record Friday before flying to Fort Bragg, did not mince words. He said an aircraft carrier will soon set sail toward Iran. We will need it if we do not make a deal. We will use the Ford if necessary. He doubled down, warning of very traumatic consequences if the Oman nuclear talks fail. That is not a drill. Those are direct threats from the commander-in-chief, and they are paired with a 1-month deadline for negotiations. Now, let us address the chatter. Claims that the Ford was capturing Maduro in Venezuela have no credible source backing them up. The Ford was conducting counter-narcotics operations in the Caribbean, not regime change. And the viral story about hundreds of Starlink terminals being shipped into Iran has no confirmation from the Pentagon, the Navy, or independent news. File that under speculative until proven. Bottom line, the Ford's redeployment is official, the president's threat is on the record, and the Oman talks are deadlocked. Everything else should be treated as unverified until you see a source tag. Now, with that baseline nailed down, let us get tactical. The next 72 hours are about to test every side's playbook. Why two carriers? Why now? Let's cut through the noise. This is not just about muscle flexing or making headlines. Sending both the USS Gerald R and the USS Abraham Lincoln into the same patch of water is a play ripped straight from the maximum pressure playbook. I am talking about calculated coercion, Washington's way of turning up the heat on Tehran without firing a single shot. Picture this. In 2019, the Pentagon surged two carrier groups into the Gulf after Iranian mines crippled tankers. The message was crystal clear. Negotiate or face consequences. Back then, Iran blinked. Talks restarted, and the U.S. did not have to launch a single Tomahawk. That is the leverage dual carriers bring. You double the strike power, double the air cover, and most importantly, you double the uncertainty for Iran's war planners. Every move gets riskier for them. Every missile they roll out, every proxy they activate now has to account for not one but two floating air bases packed with jets and missiles. This is textbook 4D chess. It is not about starting a fight, it is about making the other side think twice before even picking up the pieces. When you hear maximum pressure, this is what it looks like in real time. A dual carrier surge that can pivot from the negotiation table to the launch deck in minutes. The hardware is only half the story. The real weapon here is the uncertainty. Drop your own take in the comments. Does this kind of pressure keep the peace? Or does it just light the fuse? Let us break down what the U.S. is actually facing on the other side of the chessboard, because this is not a cartoon villain with a handful of rockets. This is Iran, and right now every Pentagon planner is staring at one number, 2,000. That is the latest estimate for Iran's ballistic missile inventory straight from Israeli intelligence briefings. 2,000 missiles. But here is the caveat. No one outside Tehran's war rooms knows the real number. Some U.S. analysts peg it lower, some higher, and satellite images show production lines running day and night. What is confirmed? Iran's rebuilt launch sites, some above ground, some buried under literal mountains. We are talking missile silos at Khorramabad and Imam Ali, concrete bunkers, armored blast doors, and launchers on 10 by 10 trucks. You are not taking these out with a single airstrike, and it is not just missiles. Iran's AIR defense network is a patchwork of Russian S-300s, homegrown systems, and rumored S-400 batteries. That means overlapping radar zones, mobile launchers, decoys, and enough electronic jamming to make any pilot's life hell. If you are picturing a Super Hornet flying in unchallenged, forget it. Every U.S. sortie has to dodge a gauntlet of sensors and surface-to-air missiles. But here is the real wild card: proxies. The Houthis in Yemen have already launched swarms of drones at U.S. ships. IRGC fast boats, 30 to 60 at a time, have boxed in destroyers and circled tankers in the Strait of Hormuz, weapons locked. This is textbook asymmetric warfare. Iran does not match the U.S. ship for ship, jet for jet. Instead, they go for saturation, overwhelm the defense with sheer numbers, confuse the radar picture, and look for a gap. That is the threat matrix facing the Ford and Lincoln strike groups right now. If you think it is just about big missiles, you are missing half the playbook. So how would you crack this defense? Drop your tactical take in the comments. 2 carriers off Iran's coast aren't just a show of force, they are a layered toolkit built for multi-domain threats. At the heart is the F-35C Lightning II, the stealth striker with a combat radius of 700 nautical miles. It slips past radar, hunts S-300 and S-400 missile batteries, and hits targets buried under concrete or mountain. Armed with JSM standoff missiles, the F-35C can launch precision strikes from 500 miles out, bypassing most air defenses. The USS Gerald R Ford brings EMALS, the electromagnetic aircraft launch system. Navy claims of a 33% sortie increase hinge on deck tempo and maintenance. When running smoothly, Ford can surge FA-18 Super Hornets for dogfights and precision bombing. But any hiccup in ordnance or catapults slows the pace. Electronic warfare layers in with the EA-18G Growler, jamming enemy radars and communications, while the E-2D Hawkeye fuses radar feeds and coordinates strikes in real time. This turns scattered data into a unified attack. Ship-launched Tomahawk missiles reach deep inland, targeting factories or command centers. SM-6 missiles create a defensive shield, intercepting threats in the air or at sea. If anything slips through, like a drone swarm or fast attack boat, the Phalanx close-in weapon system unleashes a wall of fire as the last line of defense. Each layer counters a different threat, combining stealth, electronic warfare, and standoff firepower into a single, adaptable force. Picture this. Alarms blare across both carrier decks. Sensors pick up dozens, maybe hundreds of fast boats and drones screaming in from multiple vectors. The clock starts now. First, the E-2D Hawkeye spins up the threat matrix, fusing radar feeds and pushing a real-time target list to every ship and jet in the strike group. Next, EA-18G Growlers punch out a wall of electronic noise, jamming Iranian radars, scrambling communications, and blinding guidance on incoming missiles. That buys seconds, not minutes. Suddenly, F-35Cs launch off the Abraham Lincoln, stealthing low and fast to knock out enemy missile batteries and radar sites before they can coordinate a second wave. Behind them, Super Hornets surge from the Ford, loaded for air interdiction, intercepting drones, dropping precision bombs on fast boat clusters, and running cover for the fleet. Meanwhile, escorts light up their SM-6s, swatting down anything that gets close. If a drone or boat breaks through, the CIWS spits a wall of depleted uranium. The last line, no mercy. Every asset is firing, jamming, or maneuvering, all in a synchronized dance. This is not theory. This is the layered defense, live, with real lives and real stakes. Would it hold? Drop your tactical breakdown below. How would you plug the gaps or punch through them? Here's where the real pressure hits. Right now, every decision maker from the strike group commander up to the White House is staring at a chessboard where every piece could trigger a regional meltdown. The clock is ticking. The Ford and the Lincoln are holding station, and nobody knows if the next call is to hold fire or to go weapons free. You have a dual carrier force loaded for bear, but the risks are off the charts. Missile salvos, proxy swarms, and the very real chance of dragging half the Gulf into open conflict. On the other hand, pulling back even an inch could gut United States credibility and hand Iran a propaganda win. Every option, whether launch, wait, escalate, or de-escalate, comes with a price tag in lives, alliances, and headlines. Right now, the strike group commander is relaying threat updates and recommendations up the chain, but the final play is a political call, and nobody is blinking. The next move is not just about tactics, it is about the future of United States deterrence in the region. So, what would you do? Sound off below, escalate, hold, or roll the dice? Right now, every carrier launch and every missile on standby is a signal. Whether diplomacy or escalation, it is all in play. In this game of four-dimensional chess, one miscalculation could rewrite the region overnight. So, what's your read? Deterrence or countdown to crisis? Drop your take in the comments below.